Good morning. Hope you all doing a great job here in the retail world. My name's Yohan Jacob from Retailbound. I'm proud to be on a call with my buddy Jim DeBetta from good old Atlanta, Georgia. Talk about all about licensing and invention, things like that. So, Jim, welcome aboard, my friend.
Hey, hey, how's it going?
Good. Well, again, many of Jim is a expert in invention, product placement, and reach for over 25 years. Makes me look like a rookie.
Makes me
But
feel old. Yeah.
yeah, we're both old. Shades of gray or lack of hair, right?
Uh,
Lack of hair, right? But last year you wrote a blog post on our website called "The Five Essential Steps to License Your Product," and it got a lot of views from our readers. And so I want to take a little time and do a video blog on you about tips and strategies that vendors can consider when trying to get into retail or decide to maybe I'll just license to a manufacturer who can sell into retail, right? So let's start right off the bat here. What are the most common mistakes vendors make when they try to license their idea, and how can they avoid it, by the way, Jim?
oof. Well, I mean, I think the mistakes, fortunately, are ones that I see a lot of that are correctable, right? Sometimes people do things unbeknownst to themselves or however else, and they wonder how they can get past it. But I think one of the big things, Johan, that people do is that they have an expectation that things are going to move really quickly and that everybody they speak to, every company, is going to want their product to license. And the sad reality is, and this is just this business, and like a lot of businesses, a lot of companies either won't respond, they're busy, they don't see the fit, they don't see the big excitement that you exude for your own product, right? So
Yep.
like you're like, oh, my product's the best. It's $1 billion idea. And they're like, yeah, I heard that 600 times this week. And maybe your product is the next $1 billion thing. Who knows, right? Somebody's product ultimately has to be that big winner.
Correct.
But like I said, companies move slowly. These are often multi-billion-dollar entities, right? They've got thousands of employees. They're getting inundated with requests for looking at product. And so patience is truly a virtue here. You really have to hang in and you have to follow up. Not every day. It's annoying. You know this from the retail world very well. You can't bother people and buyers and executives at companies. They'll just tell you to stop, and then you have no chance, right? You're done. But really, you have to just follow up once every couple of weeks or so. Be patient. It could take months, it could take a year. But if you have something ultimately and it's of interest to a company, somebody will get back to you. So I guess mistake number one, and it's a big one, is you have to manage expectations for yourself and where, the timelines for this. Um, Another mistake that a lot of inventors make when it comes to licensing is they provide too much information upfront to a company. So in other words, people send me these very lengthy decks and write-ups and
Yep.
long videos. I had somebody recently send me a video that was over 15 minutes, and I said, "Look, I, you know, I had you after about a minute. That's all I needed. Like,
Yep.
here's what it
Right.
is." And then they just took their time and talked on and on. And I said, "These people are too busy. They're never going to look at this ever. Now, you just want to hit them with that one-page sell sheet, down and dirty. Like, here's what it is: the elevator pitch, couple of main benefits and features." If they're interested, they're going to ask questions. And then you can hit them with the longer stuff, right? The
Yep.
bigger deck, the longer video that actually details it out. So that mistake, which is big here, is too much, right? Like in the beginning, it's just about creating interest and a little bit of a relationship, and then things will flow as they are. So there's other things that inventors do, but these two are the most common that I see.
Great stuff, Jim. Great stuff. Like you, I get a lot of product pitches, and sometimes I have to sign an NDA right before, and like seriously, and like okay, I get it. It's your baby, you want to protect it. You know, Obviously, most of them are probably worried about idea theft. How real is that risk, I guess, and what steps should vendors do to protect their idea before talking to like you, me, retailers, auto manufacturers, things like that?
Right. And Johan, I know you know this. And the world of intellectual property can be sometimes overblown, and people automatically think, I have to file for a utility patent. I have to do this. I have to do that. without even understanding the risks and rewards of it, being really prolific with, working with major retailers and being a former buyer yourself, that patents aren't required. They're not required to sell products to a retailer. Retailers care about visibility, velocity, right? All that, making money. If you don't possess a patent, they're not going to say no if they see a financial opportunity, right? And most products have a short life cycle, a year or two, right? Things come and go.
Yep.
So they know that. So I think when it comes to just approaching companies and having intellectual property and protecting yourself, I think a non-disclosure is a good tool. Look, these things are only as good as the people signing them
Correct.
and the two people in the discussion, right? So you can send a non-disclosure to a company. If they have ill intent, well, guess what? They're usually bigger than you, they have bigger lawyers than you, they've got more money to burn. You don't want to get into it. But I think it's a good practice. I always tell inventors, look, have an NDA, but NDAs aren't just like a template. They vary from state to state. There's a lot of legal stuff, all that. But it's a good practice to have that, to at least have another company acknowledge, or even you and I, that this is theirs. We're not going to take it as our own. We're not going to share their secrets with the world. I think that's good practice. I think a lot of people can file a provisional patent application, which just basically, right, plants a flag in the ground saying, this is my idea. It gives you patent pending status, and it gives you that 1 year to sort of play around and see what's out there. And again, I'm not a patent attorney, so I don't give any specifics on how that can go wrong or right, but provisional patent applications and non-disclosures they're good. They're just a little extra layers of protection. But to answer your big question, it's not as common as people think about their ideas getting stolen. I always tell people, when the things get sort of stolen, when they're in retail, they're doing phenomenal. And now another company says, oh, look, I see Yohan stuff in Target. I see it in Walmart. I see it in Costco. And hey, we're going to come up with our own version. People emulate success. They don't copy failure or things that don't exist. So the notion that, hey, I have an idea and I can't tell anybody about it, it's rare. I mean, 30 years I've been doing this. It's extremely rare for an inventor to just share an idea and then someone else just runs with it, because it costs that copier the same amount of money, time, and everything else to bring it to market. It's not like you're stealing like something physical, right? And you're reselling it. So I think it's take precautions, be smart, right? Do the things that you can do, but you can't live in this sort of inventor paranoia thing, because in order to get your product out there, you're going to have to share things about it so people can purchase it or license it.
So you talk about patents. So I have clients who have patent just in the U.S. or patent in China, patent all around. I mean, is there a right number of countries you want to protect your idea from, I guess?
I really think that the United States of America has enough opportunity that for most common products, I don't think you need to do anything outside of this country. And there's a lot of IP attorneys who will agree with that.
Yeah.
Some will say you should have protection in different countries, internationally, et cetera. It just depends on the product. A lot of people say my product is global, but really, you can do enough business in this country in retail sales or royalties that you would never have to go outside of that. So my advice always is, look, start here. And again, legal things, I don't like in terms of patents and when you have to file international stuff. That's like, okay, that's another thing. But I think you're good here. I think this country offers enough opportunity.
Cool. So next week is the Inspired Home Show in Chicago. And they have a section called Inventors Row, right? And a lot of times when myself and my team walk by these great inventors, they're usually somewhere on the cusp. Do I go the licensing route, or I go the manufacturing route? Also, you get this question asked a lot by your clientele. What kind of, I guess, big brother advice do you give them to? Obviously, you can't make decisions for them, but the pros and cons of, okay, do I go licensing? Do I go manufacturing? Kind of give us, some your perspective, I guess, Jim.
Yeah, and I always tell, you're right, I do get that but that's how these conversations start. I've got a product, I don't know what to do. They know that going to market yourself, meaning manufacturing, like prototyping, manufacturing, marketing, sales, all that stuff is costly. It's always tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars over the long haul. So that's a risk of bringing a product to market yourself, is that you're going to spend a lot of money. You're not going to see a dime up front, right? In the hopes that your product will do well and you'll start making money down the road, a la selling to retailers like you do, right? Um, the reward, though, is that for every dollar that is sold, your profit potential is much higher than the royalty rates you would get with licensing. So when I had my sport optics company, let's say for every dollar we sold, we grossed, we were netting out between 20 and 30%. Most people aren't getting 20 and 30% royalties, right? So the reward, the risk is greater going to market yourself, but the reward potentially on average is greater. When you license, there's almost no financial risk. You don't even have to have a prototype for a lot of the products. You can just have a great sell sheet, approach companies, get them interested. And even if you had a prototype, maybe you could do one on your own, or a few grand type of thing, again, depending on the complexity. So there's a low financial risk, but the reward is also generally much lower. But people like that because they say, I don't have to run a business. I don't have to be concerned with all the things. I just sort of push this off to somebody else. And hey, I don't mind making a few hundred a month or a few thousand a month or whatever it is that they can get in licensing. So really it then becomes about a personal decision. Do you have the money to go to market yourself? Do you want to be in business, right? How risk adverse are you? But me, and I think you're the same way, I'm more about going to retail
Yep.
because I think that you have more control. You have more opportunity. And if you can do it and you align yourself with the right people like you that have knowledge, preparation, skill sets, connections, know-how, it increases your odds of succeeding exponentially. It really, really does. So I think it's just get educated, understand which way you want to go personally in your life, and then you take your shot.
So that's great. For inventors that want to go the licensing route, and let's say they don't get that deal, is there a plan B, a plan C, plan Z, or should they just, give up their hopes and dreams of being an inventor?
Right. Well, you and I both know that there's a big thing about viability, understanding if people actually want what you have. Assuming you've went through some viability studies like consumer surveys or just talking to buyers or even like Kickstarter like type campaigns that do well that show that there's interest. If you license and you fail, really the plan B is to go take your product to market yourself
Yep.
because there's no better validation than even if you just set up like in a local fair or even like some mom and pop local retailers, if people are buying it, even if they're just buying 5 here and 3 there, that's validation that it works. And if you can then ultimately build up your own business, it makes licensing easier because you've mitigated all the risk for the licensee, right? If I just go to the licensee with a concept, what are you doing in sales? Oh, we haven't sold it yet. How's the product? Well, we haven't done anything. But if you're selling locally or regionally, right, or in a big chain, now when you go to license, they're like, hell, you've removed all the risk for us. We know this thing's going to sell, so we'll just pick it up and take it from you beyond that. So that's one of those types of things that people just don't realize. But that would be the plan B, is to try it yourself.
Gotcha, gotcha. And my last thing here is, I mean, you hear about AI this, AI that, right? What are the trends, I guess, for inventors when companies, where it's retailers or big fairs, are evaluating submissions from them? Are there any trends you're seeing in the marketplace today, Jim?
I think AI is just, it's like all everyone talks about. And, I use it in my business. I use it more for administrative things, maybe, like setting up spreadsheets or even just some writing, things like that. But when it comes to pitching or evaluating, I think that I see when people send me stuff that's been AI'd, like from them, and I'm like, I need to hear your voice. I need to know, like you could just see the language. Like it's funny how AI, and it'll probably evolve to be not so like stale like the way it is, but I do think it's going to continue to play a role. I think it might make retail buyers or company executives for licensing a little bit easier to assess things if there's a consistency in the way AI information is posed to them, if that makes sense. Like right now, I have clients and they send, like I ask them a question and they send me this whole thing and it's AI. And I'm like, I just wanted to know this one thing. I don't need a market survey or an assessment of yours based on information it's pulling, from the internet. So people are getting a little ahead of themselves with it. I think we have to ease into AI and just realize it's a tool like other tools. It's not replacing. If you send me a product, it's a physical thing. Like you send me this thing, right? Like I'm going to look at it. AI is not going to do that. I'm going to look at it, see how it feels, the texture, the colors, the makeup, how it works, what the packaging looks like. I'm sure AI can make some assessments of things like that, but I think the human element becomes critical, and I don't think that's going away in our lifetime. Who knows what's going to happen in 100 years? But for now, AI is just a great tool and use it where you can, but it doesn't replace the human factors of the things that we have to consider.
Yeah, I agree. There's I see a lot of stuff from that's from AI where it's it's design, it's associate, it's copy, and you can tell, right? And retail bars are I don't have time to deal with that, so go like I said, use your own voice, then use a
Yeah.
computer generated image of it. So really good stuff, Jim. Really good stuff. Well, again, a few minutes left here. Why don't you tell the audience a little about yourself and your business and how they can reach you? By the way, my friend.
Yeah, well, you know this. We can't hide anymore. Being on social media, right? I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, like just like you are. We're everywhere. So I always tell people connect with us where we live, right? LinkedIn is a big place for you and I. Like that's a place that we post often. All they have to do is just look up our name and they can find us, or they can find me on my website, which is my name, Jim DeBetta, DeBetta, jimdebetta.com. And they can just see about me, the industry, past client successes, industry people's, all the things. And so, yeah, I mean, really, they can just find me anywhere. They just AI me and they'll find me.
Awesome.
So, or
Great
Google or
stuff,
whatever.
Jim.
Yeah. So,
Awesome. Well,
yeah, and
hopefully,
it's been good. And
this
I,
is a
you
great
know,
discussion. Hopefully, the people are beneficial and reach out to you for more information, my friend. All right.
yeah, and I love that you're doing this. I think it's important for industry people like us to help each other. I think it's important that people have people like us that they can look to and trust for getting information, whether it's licensing, being ready to go into retail, all those things. AI doesn't replace the experience and the stories that we bring, and people feel comfort in that. So yeah, so I appreciate what you're doing. It's really important for the industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim.